Welcome to another recap. Vikings is a historical drama set during the Viking Age, following the legendary warrior Ragnar Lothbrok and his family as they raid new lands, battle powerful kingdoms, and fight for control of Scandinavia. As Ragnar's story unfolds, the focus eventually shifts to his ambitious sons, including Bjorn Ironside and Ivar the Boneless, whose actions reshape the Viking world. If epic battles, betrayals, and legendary warriors sound interesting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more recaps. Cold winds sweep across the harsh lands of Scandinavia as a group of Viking warriors marches through the forest toward battle. Ragnar and his brother Rollo return from a brutal fight in the Baltic lands. The battlefield is quiet now, except for ravens circling above the fallen. While looking across the field, Ragnar experiences strange visions of Odin and armored Valkyries moving among the dead. Soon, the brothers head home to Kattegat. Life there quickly returns to normal, but Ragnar has bigger thoughts brewing. He brings his young son Bjorn to town for a coming-of-age moment, hoping the boy begins to understand the warrior world. Back at the farm, Lagertha proves she can handle herself just fine. Two men try to force their way inside, but the shield maiden wastes no time dealing with them. In Kattegat, Ragnar talks with Rollo about a daring idea. Instead of raiding east like everyone always does, he wants to sail west across the open sea. He believes new navigation methods could guide them. When he presents the idea to the ruling Earl, the response is cold. The Earl refuses and orders raids to continue in the Baltic. Ragnar leaves frustrated, but not discouraged. Bjorn and Ragnar later visit Floki, an eccentric but brilliant shipbuilder. Hidden away, Floki reveals a secret project, a redesigned longship built for deeper waters. The test run goes surprisingly well, proving the vessel can survive rough seas. Meanwhile, trouble stirs at Ragnar's home. Rollo, drunk and restless, makes an uncomfortable move toward Lagertha. She shuts him down immediately, but the moment leaves tension hanging in the air. Not long after, Ragnar once again sees a vision of Odin standing by the shore. To him, it feels like approval from the gods. With that final push of confidence, Ragnar secretly gathers volunteers willing to risk an illegal journey west. Rollo and Floki join him, along with several curious warriors. Lagertha argues fiercely when Ragnar refuses to take her, but the decision stands. As the ships sail away, the Earl quietly strikes back by executing the blacksmith who made Ragnar's anchor. Out on the ocean, a violent storm slams into the ship. While everyone else struggles to survive, Floki laughs wildly, convinced Thor is testing the vessel and proving its strength. After days of uncertainty, land finally appears. The warriors step onto the unfamiliar coast of England near a quiet monastery. Inside, monks are praying, completely unaware of what is about to happen. The Vikings storm the place, grabbing treasure and cutting down anyone who resists. Most of the monks are killed, while a few are taken as captives. One of them, a young monk named Athelstan, almost dies when Rollo raises his weapon. Ragnar stops him at the last moment and decides to keep the monk alive. The raiders sail home proudly, but the celebration is short. The Earl immediately claims nearly all the treasure, allowing each warrior to keep only a single item. Ragnar chooses Athelstan instead of gold and brings the confused monk to his farm. Curious about the strange captive, Ragnar begins questioning him about his faith and homeland. Athelstan's beliefs about peace and chastity seem baffling to the Vikings, yet his knowledge proves valuable. Learning more about the Kingdom of Northumbria convinces the Earl that England might be worth another raid. Before long, a new expedition sails out. This time, Lagertha joins the warriors, along with the Earl's brother. They land in England again and are approached by local fighters who pretend to welcome them as traitors. Suspicion grows quickly, and the fragile meeting collapses into a sudden clash. The Northumbrian guards are overwhelmed. Afterward, the Vikings raid a nearby settlement while the villagers are gathered in church. During the chaos, the Earl's brother attempts something vile toward a local woman. Lagertha ends the situation permanently, protecting both herself and the villager. Back home, the Earl accuses Ragnar of murdering his brother and drags him before the public assembly. The real plan is to turn Rollo against him, but the scheme fails. Rollo refuses to betray his brother, and Ragnar is declared innocent. The victory celebration that follows does not last long. Armed men suddenly attack the gathering. Ragnar's supporters fight them off, though one loyal warrior is killed in the struggle. The conflict between Ragnar and the Earl is no longer hidden. The feud explodes when the Earl's forces attack Ragnar's farm. Ragnar, Lagertha, Athelstan, and the children escape by boat. Ragnar is badly wounded during the escape and nearly drowns before Athelstan manages to save him. The group hides with Floki and Helga, where Ragnar slowly heals. Meanwhile, the Earl tightens control in Kattegat and even tries to torture Rollo for information. Ragnar finally decides the only way forward is a direct challenge. The two leaders meet in single combat before a watching crowd. The fight is brutal, but short. Ragnar finally strikes the killing blow and becomes the new ruler of Kattegat. Despite everything, he still gives his fallen rival a proper funeral at sea. Life settles for a time. Winter arrives, alliances shift, and ambitions quietly grow. Rollo dreams of power while others plan their next journeys. Eventually, Ragnar sails west again, clashing with King Ayla and forcing a heavy ransom before returning home. Back in Scandinavia, Lagertha governs while Ragnar travels. Tragedy strikes when sickness spreads through the settlement, taking several lives, including young Gyda. Grief hangs over the family, but fate keeps moving. Ragnar later encounters the mysterious Aslog, and their meeting quickly turns intimate. Before long, she reveals a shocking truth. She is carrying Ragnar's child. The clash between Hvitserk and Borg finally erupts into open battle. In the middle of the chaos, Ragnar faces a painful sight when Rollo stands among Borg's warriors. The brothers fight fiercely, but the moment quickly turns emotional. Rollo admits he cannot bring himself to kill Ragnar and drops his weapon, surrendering. Instead of pushing the fight further, Ragnar forces both sides into a fragile peace. The agreement isn't perfect, but it stops the bloodshed for now. After settling things between the two rulers, Ragnar returns home to Kattegat, hoping life will calm down. Back home, things are far from peaceful. Ragnar tries to reconnect with Lagertha after everything they have been through, but the situation only gets worse. She learns about his affair with Aslog, and the betrayal cuts deep. The tension grows heavier when Ragnar finally allows himself to mourn Gyda. The loss of his daughter hits him harder than anything before. Just when emotions are already strained, a ship suddenly arrives in the harbor. Standing on deck is Aslog, clearly pregnant. Meanwhile, Rollo faces trial for betraying his brother during the earlier conflict. The crowd expects punishment, but the lawkeeper unexpectedly sets him free. It turns out Ragnar secretly arranged the outcome. Rollo is shocked but grateful. Despite Lagertha's anger toward Aslog, Ragnar announces that the princess will stay and become his second wife. The decision humiliates Lagertha. Feeling betrayed and disrespected, she decides to leave Kattegat for good. Ragnar desperately tries to stop her, but she refuses to listen. Bjorn sides with his mother and walks away with her, leaving Ragnar standing alone as his family breaks apart. Several years pass. Ragnar now lives with Aslog and their growing family. They already have 2 sons, and another child is on the way. During this time, Ragnar finally prepares for a new raid toward England. Hvitserk arrives with his fleet, and Borg also shows up, expecting their old alliance to continue. But Hvitserk convinces Ragnar to abandon that deal and move forward without Borg. Ragnar also welcomes Rollo back into the family, though he refuses to let him join the upcoming raid. Aslog begins acting strangely and tells Ragnar something unusual. She predicts their next son will be born with a serpent shape inside his eye. Around the same time, the seer gives Ragnar another prophecy, saying his sons will one day become more famous than him. Soon, Ragnar and Hvitserk's fleets head out across the sea toward England. But the journey takes a bad turn when a violent storm blows the ships off course. The Vikings eventually reach land, but something feels wrong. Soldiers suddenly ambush them, leading to a fierce fight. During the battle, Athelstan saves Ragnar's life. After the fighting ends, the group learns they have landed in the kingdom of Wessex, ruled by a clever king named Egbert. Ragnar becomes fascinated with the land. Instead of focusing only on treasure, he notices how rich the soil is. He starts imagining a Viking farming settlement there. Egbert soon sends messengers asking the raiders to leave peacefully. Ragnar answers with a question of his own, asking what the king would offer in return. Meanwhile, far away, Lagertha has started a new life. She marries an earl in Hedeby, but the marriage quickly turns miserable. Her new husband treats her badly, and Bjorn struggles to live under the man's authority. Around the same time, Aslog gives birth to a son whose eye carries the exact mark she predicted. This convinces many that she truly has mystical sight. Trouble soon returns to Kattegat. Angry about Ragnar breaking their pact, Borg launches an attack while most of the warriors are away. With almost no fighters left behind, Rollo desperately organizes the villagers to defend themselves. Despite their efforts, Borg's army overwhelms the settlement and seizes control. Rollo manages to escape with Aslog, her children, and Siggy. Back in Wessex, Ragnar finally meets Egbert face to face. Their conversation is calm, but filled with quiet strategy. Egbert even hints at the possibility of giving Ragnar land. Before anything can be decided, news arrives about Borg taking Kattegat. Ragnar immediately sails home. During the journey, Athelstan stays behind with Hvitserk's forces, but is later captured by soldiers after a hunting trip goes wrong. He is punished for abandoning Christianity and is nailed to a cross. His life is saved at the last moment when Egbert arrives and orders him released. Ragnar Ragnar reunites with his family after returning to Scandinavia, but Rollo brings grim news. Their numbers are too small to challenge Borg directly. Ragnar begins planning a clever trap instead of rushing into battle. Later that night, Ragnar and Bjorn sneak into Kattegat and secretly burn the town's winter food supply. Borg has no choice but to chase them. Ragnar's warriors ambush the pursuing army and crush them in battle. Borg's forces scatter, and Ragnar takes back Kattegat. Not long after the victory, Borg is captured. Ragnar eventually performs the brutal Blood Eagle execution, ending the rivalry once and for all. Life continues with new challenges. Aslaug gives birth to another son, but the child is born with weak legs. Ragnar believes the boy cannot survive in Viking life and suggests ending his life. Aslaug refuses and protects the child. Ragnar names him Ivar. Soon, Ragnar prepares another journey to England. Lagertha surprisingly arrives with ships and warriors, joining the expedition. In Wessex, Ecbert welcomes the Vikings again and offers them land in exchange for fighting as mercenaries in a nearby war. But danger grows inside Ragnar's own circle. Horik secretly plots to wipe out Ragnar and take control. Floki pretends to help Horik, even poisoning Thorstein to gain trust. Siggy is also forced to play along. Finally, Horik launches his attack on Kattegat. Confident in his victory, he storms the Great Hall, expecting Ragnar to be dead. Instead, he discovers the entire betrayal was a trap. Thorstein is alive, Floki remained loyal, and Ragnar is waiting. The fight ends quickly. Ragnar kills Horik and claims his sword. With his enemy gone, Ragnar rises higher than ever before. He is now the true king. Ragnar sits with Bjorn and admits something surprising. Despite wearing a crown, he never truly wanted to be king. All he ever cared about was exploring new lands and building farms for his people. His mind is still fixed on Wessex, where Ecbert once promised land for Viking settlers. Ragnar believes that the dream can still happen. Meanwhile, life around Kattegat grows complicated. Floki now has a peaceful family with Helga, yet the calm makes him strangely uneasy. Rollo, on the other hand, feels trapped living beside Siggy and wishes for distance. Elsewhere, Bjorn struggles with Thorunn. She wants to become a shield maiden like Lagertha, but Bjorn hates the idea. He worries about her safety and secretly believes she might already be carrying his child. Around the same time, Lagertha announces she plans to sail with Ragnar again. Before leaving Hedeby, she places her trusted ally Kalf in charge of the town. However, the moment she departs, Kalf betrays her and claims the earldom for himself with help from Einar. Ragnar and Lagertha arrive in Wessex, expecting to receive the farmland that was promised. Ecbert greets them warmly, but introduces a new condition. If the Vikings want the land, they must first help a troubled princess named Quenthrith win control of Mercia. Lagertha hesitates about joining the fight, so Ecbert offers her leadership of the Viking settlement if she agrees. Ragnar accepts the deal. Soon, the settlers begin farming the land, while Ragnar and the warriors march to war against the princess's enemies. The fighting ends with a Viking victory. Afterward, a celebration is held, but the mood turns strange when Quenthrith demands the head of her defeated uncle. Ragnar questions her intense hatred. She admits the man abused her when she was young, along with her older brother. The painful confession leaves the room silent. Back in Kattegat, strange dreams begin haunting Helga, Siggy, and Aslaug. Each of them sees a mysterious hooded traveler walking through the mist with one bloody hand. Meanwhile, in Hedeby, Kalf openly expresses jealousy toward Ragnar, hinting that he would gladly see him dead. Ecbert continues trying to charm Lagertha, even giving her a beautiful necklace. At the same time, Athelstan hears Judith confess something shocking. She dreamed about being with him, and the moment led to a forbidden kiss between them. Back in Kattegat, the mysterious traveler from the dreams finally appears. His name is Harbard, a wandering storyteller with a wounded hand. Helga, Siggy, and Aslaug allow him to stay. He claims he travels the world sharing stories of the gods. His strange presence quickly begins affecting the village. Ragnar's warriors march through the mountains to face another army in Mercia. Thorstein bravely volunteers to lead the climb, but during the brutal battle, his injuries become fatal. The Vikings eventually defeat their enemies, forcing the rival prince to surrender. During the fighting, Thorunn is badly injured. Ragnar later learns she is pregnant and angrily scolds Bjorn for allowing her into battle. Later on, Ecbert invites Ragnar and Lagertha to visit an ancient Roman bathhouse. The meeting turns personal, and Lagertha ends up sharing an intimate moment with the king. Though she accepts the connection, she later tells him she believes he mostly cares about himself. Back in Kattegat, Harbard continues spending time with the villagers. Aslaug even sleeps with him, while he mysteriously eases young Ivar's pain simply by speaking to him. His presence feels almost supernatural, tragedy soon strikes the village. Aslaug's sons wander out onto a frozen pond while playing. The ice breaks beneath them. Siggy rushes to save the boys and pushes them toward safety. Harbard pulls the children out, but Siggy disappears beneath the freezing water and drowns.
Back in England, Gwynthryth takes another ruthless step toward power. She poisons her brother and declares herself the sole ruler of Mercia. Later, the Vikings finally return to Kattegat. The warriors mourn Thorstein's death while the villagers grieve for Siggy. Ragnar grows suspicious about why Aslaug wasn't watching the children during the tragedy. At the same time, Floki becomes louder about his hatred for Christians and his growing anger toward Athelstan. Soon, more troubling news arrives. Aethelwulf leads soldiers to the Viking farming settlement in Wessex and massacres everyone living there. The peaceful dream Ragnar hoped for is destroyed. Meanwhile, Athelstan experiences a powerful spiritual moment and tells Ragnar he believes he has returned fully to Christianity. Not long after, Judith gives birth to a son. She is punished harshly for adultery until she reveals Athelstan is the father. Ecbert declares the child blessed and names him Alfred. Back in Kattegat, new alliances form. Calf arrives with ships to join Ragnar's next raid. Erlendur and Torvi also arrive. During a feast, Erlendur openly humiliates his wife by flirting with others, which pushes her toward Bjorn instead. Floki becomes convinced that the gods demand blood. One night, he finds Athelstan alone in prayer and kills him. The act devastates Ragnar. He carries Athelstan's body high into the mountains and buries his friend in silence. Soon, Ragnar gathers a massive fleet and sails toward Francia to attack the legendary city of Paris. The Frankish ruler Charles prepares defenses, while his daughter Gisla inspires the soldiers to stand firm. Ragnar surprises everyone by placing Floki in charge of the assault. The Vikings launch their attack. Lagertha, Calf, and Erlendur lead warriors against the city gate, while Ragnar, Bjorn, Rollo, and Floki attempt to breach the walls from the river, but the defenses are overwhelming. Fire, boiling oil, and crossbows rain down from the walls. The Vikings are forced to retreat with heavy losses. Bjorn is badly wounded, and Ragnar is thrown from the walls. After recovering, Ragnar orders another attack. This time, they push farther into the defenses, but are once again forced back. With Ragnar growing weaker from his injuries, he secretly meets with the Franks. Instead of demanding treasure, he asks to be baptized and buried inside the city once he dies. Many of his own warriors are confused by the request. Eventually, the Franks pay a large ransom of gold and silver. Ragnar soon appears to die from his wounds. His followers place his body inside a coffin and carry it into Paris for burial. But once inside the cathedral, Ragnar suddenly bursts out of the coffin alive. He grabs Gisla as a hostage and forces the guards to open the gates. Viking warriors storm into the city in a sudden ambush. After the raid, most of the fleet sails home, though Rollo remains behind outside Paris. Charles offers him land, titles, and even marriage to his daughter if he agrees to defend the city from future Viking attacks. Meanwhile, on the journey home, Ragnar quietly reveals to Floki that he already knows the truth about Athelstan's death. Ragnar lies badly wounded and drifting between life and death. During a fever dream, he walks toward the great gates of Valhalla. Just as he approaches, the gates slowly close before him. It feels like the gods are rejecting him. Back in Kattegat, Aslaug begins worrying about the future and quietly asks the seer if a woman might rule the town if Ragnar dies. Bjorn takes matters into his own hands. Furious over Athelstan's death, he arrests Floki for the killing. When Ragnar finally wakes, he is angry that Bjorn imprisoned his old friend. Bjorn decides the only way to prove himself worthy is to survive alone in the frozen wilderness. Around the same time, Aslaug purchases a mysterious new slave named Yidu. Elsewhere, Lagertha and Calf rule Hedeby together, but the partnership hides tension. During a public gathering, Calf invites enemies of Lagertha to vote her out of power. Just when they believe they have the upper hand, Calf suddenly turns on them and kills the traitors. Lagertha finishes the matter herself by humiliating and killing Einar, securing her control of the town. Meanwhile, in Paris, Rollo has become a noble under the Frankish king. He marries Gisla, though the ceremony is filled with tension. On their wedding night, she even threatens him with a knife. Rollo then proves his loyalty by riding to the Viking camp outside the city and ordering the slaughter of the warriors stationed there. Back in Scandinavia, Bjorn struggles through the brutal winter alone. At the same time, Helga secretly frees Floki from his chains. Ragnar later learns the truth, but surprisingly shows understanding. Eventually, Floki is captured again, and Ragnar locks him inside a damp cave. During this time, Ragnar grows closer to Yidu, who gives him strange medicine from her homeland that causes powerful hallucinations. In Wessex, Ecbert sends soldiers to rescue Gwynthryth and her child from rebels. Aethelwulf succeeds in the mission without realizing his own wife Judith is secretly involved with Ecbert. In the wilderness, this, Bjorn survives dangerous encounters and even kills a massive bear. Later, he defeats a mysterious berserker sent to assassinate him. When he searches the body, he finds a ring belonging to Erlander, revealing the attack was no accident. Back in Kattegat, the strange wanderer Harbard appears again, stirring tension in the village. During the winter celebration, another powerful figure arrives, Harald, a warrior who boldly declares his dream of becoming king of all Norway. Meanwhile, Ragnar becomes addicted to Yidu's medicine. During one conversation, she claims her father is a powerful ruler from China. Ragnar confesses his own secret about the destroyed settlement in England. Later, Lagertha makes another bold move. Just before marrying Kalth, she suddenly stabs and kills him, reclaiming her full control of Hedeby. Not long after, Ragnar announces a new raid against Paris. His sons Ubbe and Hvitserk receive their arm rings and prepare to sail with him. Before leaving, Ragnar visits the seer and asks how he will die. The seer answers mysteriously that Ragnar will die when the blind man sees him. When the Vikings finally reach France again, they discover Rollo waiting with a powerful Frankish army. The battle goes terribly. Rollo's defenses trap the Viking ships, and the attackers are forced to retreat. Ragnar's leadership begins to crumble. Desperate and unstable from the drugs, he lashes out and kills Yidu during an argument. Eventually, Ragnar forms a new plan, dragging the ships over land to surprise the Franks from behind their forts. The fighting resumes, but once again the Franks gain the upper hand. Ragnar and Rollo face each other in battle before the Vikings are forced to withdraw. Years later, Ragnar disappears completely. Kattegat moves on without him, ruled by Aslog while Bjorn leads the warriors. Then one day, Ragnar suddenly returns, older and broken, and challenges his sons to kill him if they want the throne. Ragnar returns to Kattegat after years away and challenges his sons to kill him if they want his crown. Instead, Ubbe steps forward and embraces him. Ragnar then asks his sons to sail with him back to England, but Bjorn refuses. Bjorn has bigger plans and prepares to sail to the Mediterranean with Floki, Harald, and Hvitserk. Ubbe and Sigurd decide to stay behind and defend Kattegat, which has grown into an important trading city. Ivar struggles with his place in the family. He watches his brothers share the slave girl Margreta and demands the same attention. When he fails, he becomes emotional and nearly threatens her, but instead breaks down in tears. Margreta quietly reminds him that being Ragnar's son brings heavy expectations. Later, Ragnar visits Floki and surprisingly tells him that he still loves him despite everything that happened with Athelstan. Ragnar also travels to Hedeby to apologize to Lagertha. She refuses to join him in England, but the moment shows they still share a complicated bond. On the ride home, Ragnar stops beneath a large tree and tries to hang himself. At the last moment, ravens tear through the rope, saving him. Back in Kattegat, Ragnar finds Ivar sitting in the throne room. After talking with him honestly, Ragnar convinces Ivar to sail to England with him. Ragnar tries to recruit warriors for the journey, but most refuse, believing the gods have abandoned him. Eventually, Ragnar digs up hidden treasure and bribes a few older fighters to join him. Before leaving, Aslog warns Ivar about a vision where she sees him drowning. Ivar ignores the warning and sails with Ragnar anyway. Meanwhile, Bjorn and his allies head south toward the Mediterranean. During the voyage, they stop in Francia and ask Rollo for safe passage. Instead, Rollo arrests them, though he later releases them after negotiations. Back in Kattegat, things take a dramatic turn. Lagertha attacks the city and removes Aslog from power. Aslog accepts defeat and asks only for safe passage to leave peacefully. Lagertha agrees, but then suddenly kills her. When Ubbe and Sigurd arrive, they are shocked to see Lagertha sitting on the throne. Meanwhile, Ragnar and Ivar reach England after surviving a violent storm that destroys their ships. Ragnar secretly kills the surviving Vikings so they cannot interfere with his plan. Then he and Ivar surrender themselves to the Saxons. In Wessex, Ragnar is brought before Ecbert. The two old rivals share a strange conversation about faith, Athelstan, and the past. Ecbert admits his role in destroying the Viking settlement and feels deep regret. Ragnar asks Ecbert to kill him, but Ecbert refuses. Instead, he agrees to send Ragnar to King Ela while secretly arranging safe passage for Ivar to escape. Before separating, Ragnar tells Ivar to be ruthless and take revenge for everything that happened. Ragnar accepts his fate and travels to Northumbria, where Ela brutally tortures him. Even facing death, Ragnar refuses to beg for mercy. He declares that his sons will avenge him and that he will wait for them in Valhalla. Ela finally throws him into a pit filled with snakes, where Ragnar dies. Ivar eventually returns to Kattegat and learns that Lagertha killed his mother. His anger grows stronger than ever. Across the lands, Ragnar's sons begin preparing for revenge. Meanwhile, Bjorn continues exploring distant lands with his fleet. Soon, the god Odin appears to Ragnar's sons, revealing the news of their father's death. The brothers unite and gather a massive Viking army. Together, they sail back to England seeking vengeance. Their forces crush Ela's army and capture the king. As punishment for Ragnar's death, Ayla is executed using the Blood Eagle ritual. The war continues as the Vikings march deeper into England. Saxon forces gather to resist them, leading to another brutal battle. During the campaign, tensions grow among Ragnar's sons. Their alliance begins to crack under pressure. Eventually, the Vikings defeat Ecbert's forces and capture the king. Instead of executing him, Bjorn allows Ecbert to choose his own death after surrendering territory. Ecbert takes his own life in a Roman bath. Afterward, the brothers argue over their future. Bjorn wants to continue exploring new lands, while Ivar wants to keep conquering England. During a heated argument, Sigurd insults Ivar repeatedly. In a sudden burst of rage, Ivar throws an axe and kills his own brother.
After Sigurd's death, the remaining brothers divide power across their expanding Viking lands. Ubbe, Ivar, and Hvitserk rule the territory in East Anglia, while trying to continue the legacy their father left behind. Meanwhile, Bjorn sails south again with Halfdan, chasing glory across the Mediterranean. Floki also leaves, sailing alone into the unknown in search of a land he believes the gods have promised him. Harold heads back toward Kattegat, watching carefully for a chance to gain power. Back in England, Bishop Hemund arrives at Ecbert's old villa and begins rebuilding the place after the chaos of war. Aethelwulf and Judith remain in exile with their sons Aethelred and Alfred, and the young Alfred grows dangerously sick. While the Saxons recover, Ivar pushes the Viking army to keep expanding. He convinces his brothers that their next target should be the city of York. Meanwhile, in Kattegat, Lagertha suspects Harold had planned to overthrow her by placing Egil on the throne. Harold openly admits he hoped to take the kingdom one day, and even challenges her to kill him. Instead, Lagertha throws him in chains. Far away at sea, Floki finally reaches a strange and beautiful land. The mountains, lava fields, and steaming springs convince him that he has discovered the land of the gods. He explores the wilderness with wonder, believing destiny guided him there. Back in Kattegat, Harold remains imprisoned and proposes marriage to Lagertha as a way to form an alliance. She rejects the idea. Later, his warriors secretly free him and capture Astrid before fleeing the city. Harold then offers Astrid the same marriage proposal, hoping she will help strengthen his claim to power. In England, the Saxons strike back. Aethelwulf joins forces with Hemund and marches on York. Inside the city, Ivar surprises everyone by standing and walking with the help of braces and a crutch. When the Saxons attack, they fall straight into a trap. The Vikings crush the assault and drive the Saxons away. Later, the Saxons pretend to negotiate peace, but Hemund humiliates the Viking envoys. The insult creates tension among the brothers. Ubbe and Hvitserk plan to return home, but at the last moment, Hvitserk changes his mind and stays with Ivar, helping him take command of the great army. Meanwhile, Bjorn's journey leads him to Sicily. There, he meets a commander who claims to represent powerful rulers across the sea. When Bjorn learns the man secretly serves an Arab emir in North Africa, he decides to travel there and meet the ruler himself. The trip turns dangerous, and Bjorn is eventually captured. During a violent sandstorm, he manages to escape and sail home again. Back in Kattegat, new alliances begin to form. Ubbe returns and joins Lagertha in preparing for the threat from Ivar and Harold. Around the same time, Astrid agrees to marry Harold, though her loyalty remains uncertain. Floki eventually returns to Kattegat and tells everyone about the land he discovered. Despite Lagertha's warnings, he gathers settlers and sails back to start a new colony. When they arrive, however, the land proves harsh and difficult to survive in. Soon, the Viking brothers prepare for war against each other. Ivar allies with Harold and begins planning an attack on Kattegat. Astrid secretly sends a warning back to Lagertha. Bjorn finally returns home just as the armies gather. Lagertha allies with the Sami and prepares to defend the city. The two sides meet outside Kattegat. Lagertha offers peace talks, but Harold and Ivar refuse. The battle quickly turns brutal. Bjorn and Lagertha initially gain the advantage, but the fighting spreads across the battlefield. Astrid begs Lagertha to kill her rather than let her unborn child be used in the war. Lagertha reluctantly agrees. As the fighting worsens, Harold kills his own brother during the chaos. Reinforcements arrive, and the balance shifts. Lagertha and Bjorn are forced to retreat as Kattegat falls into enemy hands. After the battle, Bjorn prepares to leave the ruined city with the survivors. Lagertha sits broken and exhausted, her hair turned white from the shock of defeat. Across the fjord, a new fleet appears on the horizon. Rollo has arrived.
Ivar marches into Kattegat and proudly declares himself the new king. With the city under his control, he celebrates with Hvitserk while Harold mourns the loss of Astrid and struggles with guilt after killing his own brother. Soon, Rollo arrives and learns that Lagertha, Bjorn, and Ubbe have disappeared. Rollo guesses they are hiding in a remote hut he once used long ago. When he finds them, he offers to take them back to Francia for safety and even reveals a shocking truth. He believes he is Bjorn's real father. Bjorn refuses both the offer and the claim, choosing his own path instead. Ivar later discovers discovers the hut, but arrives too late. Lagertha and the others have already escaped, leaving behind the unstable Margrethe. They steal a boat and sail toward England. Meanwhile, far away in Iceland, the settlers argue about sacrificing Floki for their misfortune. A final vote spares his life. In Wessex, Alfred begins ruling with bold ideas, including holding church services in English rather than Latin. The clergy dislikes the change, but Alfred pushes forward. Around the same time, Lagertha, Bjorn, and Ubbe arrive in England and are captured. Heathen suggests a deal. They can settle peacefully in East Anglia if they help defend the land from other Viking raids. Back in Kattegat, Ivar becomes engaged to Freydis. When he cannot father a child, she secretly sleeps with a slave and pretends the future baby is Ivar's. Meanwhile, tensions grow in Iceland as the settlers fight among themselves. Floki begins to doubt whether the visions that brought him there were real or just madness. In England, Alfred asks Ubbe to convert to Christianity. Ubbe and Torvi eventually agree, though Bjorn dislikes the decision. At the same time, Bjorn meets Magnus, who claims to be Ragnar's son and dreams of revenge. Political struggles continue in Wessex, and Heathen even kills a rival bishop to protect his position. Back in Kattegat, Ivar grows more ruthless. After dreaming about Margrethe spreading rumors against him, he has her killed. With Freydis praising him constantly, Ivar begins to believe he is more than human. He declares himself a god and performs brutal sacrifices to prove his power. Hvitserk becomes increasingly uneasy about the path his brother is taking. Harold prepares for war against Wessex. In England, the Saxons set a trap for his army. When the battle begins, the English forces overwhelm the Vikings. Harold's ally is killed, Bjorn is wounded, and the Vikings are forced to retreat. During the chaos, Lagertha disappears without anyone noticing. Despite the defeat, Ivar begins planning his own invasion of England. Alfred grants land in East Anglia to Ubbe and the Norse settlers, hoping to create peace. Bjorn is unhappy about the conversions and leaves to form new alliances with Harold. At the same time in Iceland, the tragedy continues. Floki tries to keep the peace among the settlers, but the violence grows worse. Families begin killing each other over old grudges. Broken by the chaos, Floki finally abandons the colony and wanders alone into the wilderness, searching for answers from the gods. Back in Kattegat, Ivar's rule becomes increasingly harsh. Rebels are burned alive, and anyone who speaks against him disappears. Freydis gives birth to a child she claims is Ivar's son, but the baby is born deformed. Unwilling to let the child suffer, Ivar leaves the baby outside in the forest to die. Meanwhile, Bjorn gathers allies to challenge Ivar's rule. Armies begin marching toward Kattegat. Hvitserk secretly turns against his brother and joins the growing rebellion. When the combined armies finally attack, the defenses hold at first. But Freydis betrays Ivar and reveals a hidden entrance to the attackers. The rebels storm the city and overwhelm Ivar's loyal guards. During the chaos, Harold is badly wounded, saving Bjorn. When Bjorn and Hvitserk enter the Great Hall, Ivar has already vanished. With the battle over, Bjorn is declared the new king of Kattegat. Yet far away in the hills, Ivar travels east with a handful of followers, already planning his next move. After losing Kattegat, Ivar travels east along the Silk Road with his bodyguard Vigrid. Their journey ends when warriors loyal to Prince Oleg capture them in the land of the Roose. Oleg brutally kills Vigrid and questions Ivar about his past. Instead of executing him, Oleg becomes fascinated by the exiled Viking prince. The two form a strange alliance after Oleg reveals his own ruthless nature and explains his plan to conquer Scandinavia. He invites Ivar to help lead the coming invasion. Meanwhile, back in Kattegat, Bjorn rules as king and banishes the remaining followers of Ivar. Lagertha announces that her time as a warrior is over. She plans to return to her old farm and live quietly. Soon, news arrives that Harold has been captured by Olaf, who now controls his kingdom. Remembering how Harold once saved his life, Bjorn decides to rescue him, despite Lagertha's warning that the mission is risky. At the same time, Kjetil arrives seeking settlers for Iceland. Ubbe becomes interested after hearing stories about a mysterious traveler named Othir, who claims to have seen a rich land far west of Iceland. Torvi also reveals she is pregnant, adding another reason for Ubbe to search for a peaceful future. Bjorn forces Kjetil to join his war expedition before any settlers leave. Far away in the Roose lands, Oleg strengthens his grip on power. He poisons his brother Askold and kidnaps his young nephew Igor, the rightful heir to the throne. Ivar slowly forms a bond with Igor while secretly questioning Oleg's cruelty. Another brother named Deer tries to challenge Oleg but fails and is captured. Back in Kattegat, Bjorn prepares to rescue Harold and places Ubbe in charge while he is gone. Hvitserk struggles with guilt and haunting visions of the past. Meanwhile, bandits led by Whitehair attack the nearby village where Lagertha now lives. The farmers beg Lagertha for help, forcing the retired warrior to fight again. Bjorn attempts to rescue Harold by sneaking into the harbor of Olaf's capital,
but the attack fails when Olaf sets the water on fire. Bjorn's army is surrounded. Meanwhile, Ivar secretly manipulates events in the Roose kingdom, reminding Igor that the throne truly belongs to him, while also promising dear freedom if he helps overthrow Oleg. Back in Norway, the bandits attack Lagertha's village again. The villagers fight desperately and finally defeat them when Lagertha kills Whitehair in single combat. Sadly, the battle costs her dearly when Bjorn's young son Holly is killed. Later, Lagertha rides toward Kattegat despite her injuries, hoping to see Bjorn one last time. Along the way, she begins seeing visions of the past. In Vestfold, the kings and earls gather to choose a ruler for all Norway. After political deals and secret promises, Harald is crowned King of Norway. Back in Kattegat, tragedy strikes. Hvitserk, drunk and hallucinating, believes he sees Ivar in the form of a serpent. He attacks the vision with his sword. When the hallucination fades, he realizes he has accidentally killed Lagertha. Her body is discovered, and grief spreads through Kattegat. A grand funeral is held to honor her life. Bjorn returns just in time to say farewell and swears vengeance for his mother's death. Hvitserk confesses to the killing and is sentenced to death. At the last moment, Ubbe saves him, and instead, Hvitserk is banished. Meanwhile, the Roose army prepares to invade Scandinavia. As their massive force marches toward Norway, Bjorn and Harald gather their warriors for the coming war. The battle finally erupts on the shores of Norway, but the Roose army overwhelms the defenders. During the chaos, Ivar confronts Bjorn and stabs him with a sword as the Roose celebrate their victory.
After the brutal defeat in Norway, the Roose army takes control of the battlefield and prepares to move against Kattegat. Harald and Olaf are captured. To prove loyalty, Igor burns Olaf alive under Oleg's command. Harald refuses to remain a pawn and eventually escapes captivity. Back in Kattegat, warriors gather to defend the kingdom. Bjorn is revealed to still be alive, though his wound is slowly killing him. When Oleg's forces hold a religious ceremony, Bjorn suddenly appears before them. His arrival terrifies the soldiers. Even after being struck by arrows, he manages to command the Norwegian warriors to attack. The united forces charge from every direction, forcing the Roose army to retreat. Bjorn dies soon after and is buried in a massive mound, honored as a legendary king. Meanwhile, in Kiev, Oleg returns in defeat and begins tightening his control. He separates Igor from Ivar and destroys the boy's room, claiming he must become stronger. Secret resistance begins forming around Deer, who wants to overthrow Oleg. Ivar quietly encourages Igor to remember that the kingdom truly belongs to him. Back in Kattegat, Gunhild mourns Bjorn's death. Eric convinces both Gunhild and Ingrid that the people should hold a gathering to choose the next ruler. While they prepare for this, Ingrid secretly practices strange rituals near Bjorn's burial mound. Far away at sea, Ubbe's expedition faces disaster. A violent storm scatters the ships, and Torvi's daughter Asa is swept into the ocean. The survivors eventually reach land, but it is not the rich paradise they expected. As a joke, the settlers named the harsh place Greenland. Tensions explode among the settlers when food becomes scarce. A giant whale washes ashore, and everyone begins fighting over it. Ubbe tries to stop the violence, but is forced to kill Frodi in self-defense. Realizing the settlement is collapsing, Ubbe gathers the calmer survivors and sails away. Back in Kattegat, Harald returns and claims the throne as the rightful king of Norway. Ingrid becomes his wife, though her loyalty is uncertain. Soon after, Gunhild chooses to join Bjorn in Valhalla by drowning herself. Meanwhile, in Kiev, the rebellion against Oleg finally begins. With Ivar's help, Igor confronts his uncle. When Oleg begs for forgiveness, Igor kills him with an arrow and takes the throne. Ivar and Hvitserk then leave the Roose lands behind. When they return to Kattegat, the people distrust them for fighting with the Roose. Harald gives a powerful speech that convinces the crowd to forgive them. Soon after, Ivar decides to launch one final raid against Wessex. Harald joins the expedition, tired of ruling. The fleet sails to England and begins raiding the countryside to lure Alfred into battle. Alfred gathers his army and prepares to defend the kingdom. The two forces eventually clash in a massive fight. During the battle, Harald becomes separated and is fatally wounded after killing a bishop. Ivar's condition worsens as the fighting continues. Realizing his time is ending, he accepts his fate. He allows an English soldier to stab him, bringing the battle to a halt. The Viking army withdraws, and Hvitserk mourns his brother's death. Alfred later offers Hvitserk peace and baptizes him, giving him the name Athelstan. At the same time, Ubbe's remaining group discovers a new land filled with forests and wildlife. They meet friendly native people who share food and knowledge with them. Eventually, they are led to a familiar figure living quietly among the trees, Floki. The story ends with Ubbe and Floki sitting by the ocean together. As the sun sets, they speak about the past and the end
end of the Viking Age. And that's where this part of the saga wraps up. Vikings fought, kingdoms fell, and family drama somehow got even messier than the battles. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.